wire as Verne Gagne's All-Star Wrestling goes coast to coast and continent to continent. The greatest wrestlers in the world.
He may be an apprentice carpenter, but I guarantee you he is a seasoned ring veteran.
I've been hit with bar stools, bar rags, barmaids.
I'm talking to you.
They're scared that Hulkamania's still running wild. Oh, yeah. I got a big fat wife and 9 kids at home, and I gotta feed them.
And take a look at Jesse the Body in real life.
Open your hand once if you would.
You want to see it?
This is absolutely unbelievable. Totally, completely out of control.
He's coming in over the top. Hey! Look out!
What's going on, all you crazy Mickheads? Welcome into AWA Unleashed. We are the preeminent #1 podcast dedicated to telling the stories and reliving the memories of the best wrestling territory in the history of the wrestling business, the American Wrestling Association. My name is Chris Tubbs. There's Polish Joe. There's Slick Mick. I didn't know which way to bring you guys in because you came into the queue differently and then you lined up. So I don't know if you guys are in your regular spots. I feel like, can you guys see it on the screen? Does it look weird to you? Like your spots are flipped or?
My spots have always been flipped.
I'm just seeing what I see right now. Of course it looks weird. We're on camera.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. Much
There.
better.
Oh, hold on. There, that's better because I can't see. Ow.
There we go.
Hey,
welcome us all back.
yes, I am hoping that we can get into a little bit of a rhythm now. I'll kind of tell a little bit more at the end of the show, but we are back and we are a few days behind schedule, but we are here with, who doesn't want to come back and look at some Mick Pix, right? That's what we're going to do today.
Damn right we are. You better.
We're going to look at some Mick Pix, but you're chest up. So thankfully.
Yeah, just make sure that it's Mick Pix.
Oh, Jesus.
Sorry, I got a cold. That's not what Mick Pix. Okay, there we go.
Boy, now I know why I didn't miss this.
And you're lying through your ass.
You love us. You love us.
Yeah, well, whatever.
You love us. Hey, let's get into the business here. First of all, we're going to, you know what? I don't even want to do the plugging of the Patreon and the TeePublic and everything. I'll put those down on the scroll throughout the course of the show. But let's start it off, Mick, by we lost someone not too long ago, a big part of the AWA's history. And it's one of those that everybody knows this individual, whether you saw him at the beginning or the end. You say the name and people instantly know exactly who you're talking about. Take a look.
Colonel De Beers, God bless him. Ed Wiskoski, Colonel De Beers, passed away. He had an on and off battle with illnesses for several years. I hadn't seen Colonel for quite some time, saw him at Cauliflower Alley the last time I did see him. He had kind of dropped off the radar, and everybody was asking what happened to the Colonel. Well, he was battling those health issues. 80 years old, and there's only one Colonel De Beers, and I'm telling you, and there's a shot of Easy Ed Wiskoski and myself. It was interesting. I hadn't seen Ed for probably, 15, 20 years prior to this picture being taken, and it was just like old home week.
What did you say to him that you got his eyes to bug out like that?
He was grabbing his ass.
I was going to say it. You can't see my hand there. No.
Flip it.
It was. I can't say enough good things about Colonel. You know, his on-screen persona as the racist South African, he did it to a fault. And to this day, you know, we did that poll not that long ago on this podcast about the most hated gimmicks in wrestling, and Colonel's was one of them, and justifiably so. Away from the ring, this guy was a character. He was smart. He was funny. He was mischievous. He would also sit at the bar at the Cauliflower Alley Club 4 p.m. one night and 7 a.m. the next morning. He's still sitting there telling stories. And he and Buddy Rose, of course, ran a wrestling school up in the Portland area. One of the great legendary villains in this business. And he also wrestled as the Polish Prince for a brief stint in the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. And of course, Aziz Wiskoski, one hell of a guy. And this one stinks. I really like Colonel, and yet another one of our heroes is gone.
I don't have anything bad to say about the man, Ed. I've talked before about the gimmick, how I didn't care for it much, but Ed did it extremely well. And the person that I knew was not the gimmick, and oftentimes it's not. But one story about Ed, when he first came into the AWA, we're doing interview day. And, keep in mind, on interview days, we would be doing the same interview essentially 10, 15 times. It would just be a different town. So we would what we called a market edit interview. Anyway, Ed came over one time and he told me that what he was going to do, he was going to sort of slowly walk into the picture, and I was running camera at this point. I wasn't directing the interviews yet. And so he asked if I could pull out a little bit sooner so that we could see him with his strut, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And I said, sure. Of course, we don't have a lot of room. Don't want to shoot off set. But then I looked down and I said, where'd you get all of the different ribbons on your jacket? He goes, people just give them to me. I have no idea what the hell they are. So I looked at them and, sort of stayed in gimmick, if you will. But I look at him and I go, so you're telling me you're not a real colonel? He just bust out laughing and just, we got along after that. It just a little bit of an icebreaker, not that was needed. But Ed, a consummate professional. His Colonel De Beers gimmick, yes, I hated it because of the racism, but God, he was so good at it and pushed the envelope. In my opinion, push it as far as you can probably go back in those days with racism and professional wrestling. But Ed, rest in peace. Thank you, Colonel.
There's just a couple of more asides. First of all, I mean, when you talk about the racist angle and you want to know the real Colonel De Beers, when Derek Dukes says, I learned a lot from Ed, that tells you right there, that was their relationship. The Colonel was just, he was an incredible guy. And I'll never forget back in the mid-1980s when he came and you talk about pushing the envelope, Joe, he comes out and he talks about how Scott Hall is on anabolic steroids. And, he made a big deal out of that. He wanted Scott Hall to be tested. And, he wasn't.
He wasn't wrong.
No, he was not wrong at all. And this was like the first time that somebody had actually, presented this on TV. So Ed, he had no filter when it came to expressing his opinions. And we'll do more on Ed Wiskoski in the coming weeks. No question.
And keep in mind when he did that anabolic steroids angle with Scott Hall. This is like 1986, later on.
Way ahead of the curve.
Exactly. So in a lot of ways, Colonel was ahead of his time in many ways.
Should have listened to the Colonel. Yep. No doubt. All right.
Well, are we ready to get into Slick Mick Pix?
We are, and
Okay, well,
there's
I'm going to take myself off of the screen. I will let you guys kind of chop it up, and we'll go from there. And I'll put the
nobody
scrolls on.
no,
And sound good?
nobody
Let's do
chops
it.
it up like we do. We slice and dice. So here we go, troops. Let's look at some pictures. We'll have Chris bring up photo number 1 at his leisure. And there we go. Now I love this picture. My guess is that Bob Reese, a photographer from Omaha, probably took this picture. That's Reggie Parks, the legendary Reggie. Now, if you look under what would be Reggie's left arm, that's not a growth. That is Dr. X. So I'm going to put this photograph at probably 1972, 1973-ish, from the Omaha, Joe Dusick area. Dr. X was a constant prankster. And you notice, I think Reggie realizes that somebody is photobombing that photograph, and it is the dastardly Dr. X. Love that picture, the camaraderie of the business.
I didn't notice it when it first popped up, but then as you went into the description, I noticed X. Classic photo. A question for you on Reggie. Did he start making belts while he was still wrestling, or was that after his career? Because, by the way, if you don't know, Reggie Parks is long known as like one of the premier belt makers in the industry.
Yeah. I would have to believe it was afterward. I think Reggie owned a carpet cleaning company or something. Also, when he got out of the business, but when he was working, he was a full-time wrestler. He was on the road all the time, so I would have to believe it was after the fact.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Man with a cast iron stomach. Is that what?
That is correct. Reggie's gimmick: he would lay down and he would have a full-size Volkswagen bus run across his stomach muscles, protected only by a towel. And whether or not they stripped the thing down or not, I don't know. But still, that's pretty damn solid stuff. And that was it. Yeah, Reggie was the man with the cast iron stomach.
Well, I don't know that that's that great of a feat. I mean, Jerry Blackwell carried a Volkswagen bug in his stomach for his entire career.
That's true. So Jerry had his own exhaust system. As it were. Okay. Next photo. Oh, I love this. This would take you back to Atlanta, and I want to say this is 2011, and 3 of the great AWA champions together in one picture. Larry Zbyszko, who looks like he has spent an awful lot of time in the tanning booth. Larry, of course, lived in Florida. And then our dear friend Nick Bockwinkel and Stan the Lariat Hansen. And what's interesting about that, I think the right guy is holding the title belt there of the 3. And by that point, Nick and Stan Hansen had certainly reconciled their issues from the AWA from years back. So what a great picture this is. And what I remember most about this entire trip down to Atlanta was that Nick was just starting to show the signs of some degeneration upstairs. And so I'll remember that. But still, 3 great AWA heavyweight champions.
Who had the belt at that point? I mean, not as in champion, but physically, who owned that championship belt? Do you know?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, it's like, how did that end up in the picture? Did Zbyszko end up with the very last belt? That's a good thing to try to figure out. Who owns the very last AWA World Heavyweight Championship belt?
Very good question. Very good. No doubt. Let's keep going.
Next.
What do we got next, Mr. Tubbs? This is an interesting picture. The Chain Gang, Big Frank and Jack, the Chain Gang. Of course, one of those gentlemen, the gentleman on the left, is Don Fargo. They came into the AWA area and they were wrestling in Chicago as well, late 1960s. And what's interesting about this combination, they came in as Hell's Angels, obviously, a biker gang, and they were actually physically attacked and shot in a bar. I forget the town, might have been Illinois, might have been Indiana, but one of them, not Don Fargo, the other gentleman, was actually could never wrestle again because they were attacked by legitimate Hell's Angels.
Wow.
So this is one time where the gimmick went a little bit too far and irritated the wrong group. They weren't in the AWA for a long time. They were kind of in and out, but a very, very accomplished heel tag team. But yeah, they didn't get away with the gimmick when they were in a biker bar with the Hell's Angels.
Did they originate with in Bruiser's territory?
I believe they did. Yes.
Yeah, I think I remember many years ago I had sent you a picture asking you who they were, because I didn't remember them in the AWA, but I needed it for classic wrestling. And of course, you knew who they were because you're like an encyclopedia. Well, that you're old, but boom, boom.
Got another picture at all? Anything else for the show, or is that about it?
I'm catching up to you, Mick. Don't worry.
Oh, now there we go. Now, we mentioned a little bit earlier on why the Colonel,
we got more.
Yeah, why the Colonel was had his eyes bugged out because of my hand. Look at Verne's hand. Now, Verne's left arm, I believe, is trying to go into Ric Flair's pocket to get the 10% that Ric Flair owned Verne for training all those years. That is just a great picture of the mentor and the student. Looking at the photograph, I remember Rick, when he was in the AWA area, he came in and he did the Twin Wars thing in 1990. So I would place it about then. But again, and Ric Flair to this day, he speaks highly of Verne, as he should. But they had that little problem of Rick wanting his payday and Verne saying you owe me 10% for all the years that you've been in the business, and Rick basically saying you're full of shit. So
Mick, you're almost correct. You said that it was 10%, but it was actually 15 because Verne actually had to go into Rick's pocket. So Verne charged him an additional 5% surcharge for the manual labor to pickpocket him.
It's a finder's fee.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Well, you call me the encyclopedia, but when it comes to the inside track, Joe, you've got it. And
Verne was Ticketmaster before Ticketmaster, so
I really appreciate it. Plus, unspecified fees as assigned. Okay, thank you, Vernsky. All right, who do we got? Now here we go. This was from a Chicago-based wrestling magazine. I believe it was either Wrestling Life or Wrestling As You Like It back in the 1950s. And if you watched AWA All-Star Wrestling in the 60s here, they always would have that polka music. They would do a commercial for the polka music, Happy Frank or, whatever the guy's name was. Crusher would occasionally come out to the soundtrack from that polka music. But I love this. Verne Gagne, Pat O'Connor, and Antonino Rocca, who believes that the polka, the song, is going to be sweeping the country. Antonino Rocca from Argentina was apparently tuned into polka music from here in the United States. And can you imagine, seriously, Verne Gagne, Pat O'Connor, and Antonino Rocca are shilling for a polka. Far cry from Jarospeed, but this was early on in the wrestler endorsement days. Okay.
A Frenchman, an Irishman, and an Italian promoting a polka.
Wrestling has always been all inclusive, and here's a perfect example of that. You ought to love this. I mean, right up your alley, Chupik.
Well, I'm all for inclusivity. It just is. It'd be like asking me to rate a fine wine, which I don't drink wine, but it just a poll, and there's just a few things wrong with it. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's very true.
Now, if it was vodka, then I could tell you. But
Love this picture, and I'm gonna tentatively say this is 1973. And that is a rogues gallery of AWA heels at the time, maybe 72-ish, maybe 74, somewhere in there. But from the left, you've got superstar Billy Graham, and then Rene Goulet, or Sergeant Jacques Goulet, Dusty Rhodes, Dick Murdoch, Stan Crusher Kowalski, and Ivan Koloff. And, of course, the sad part about that picture is that none of them are with us anymore. But boy, what an era in wrestling, and to get these guys together for this picture. This is kind of a capsule summary of what the AWA was like in the 1970s. Great stuff. And again, the camaraderie of the business. And they all look a little bit loopy, but Dick Murdoch, I think Dick is in another zip code, I believe.
well, he might have been drinking with Ray Stevens before the picture was taken.
I mean, is Dusty holding him up there? I mean, Dick is. This man's going to go down. This is serious stuff. What?
I'm just glad that there are still some pictures like this of this time and era. Just stop and think about it. The fact that somebody was able to get this picture taken. Now, you fast forward to today, and everybody has a camera on them with their smartphone. And so pictures like this would be very easy to get and share and post on social media. But to have pictures like this, these candid photos from behind the scenes, that's why I love doing these Slick Mick Pix.
It brings you back to another era. It's totally different now. I mean, the guys are, they go from arena to airplane, and off to the next town. Back in our day, my day, it was let's get into the car and drive 500 miles to Winnipeg. So it completely different. But boy, what a band of thugs in that picture. Okay, let's move ahead.
Next one. Is that a future AWA champion?
Isn't that something? That would be Rick Martel at the beginning of his career, and for all the crap that people gave Greg Gagne about his lack of size, this is pretty damn close. Rick Martel, of course, one of the most underrated champions in AWA history. Great guy inside and outside of the ring. He's taken a step back from the business. Doesn't like to do the fan fests and the conventions and so on. More power to him. But look at that, Rick Martel. And I believe he was using a different name when he first got into the business. I wouldn't swear to that, but I think he was. But boy, that can't be $180, $190 tops. Jupes, what do you think?
Still look bigger than Greg at the time there, I will say that, but the style of trunks has certainly evolved. I mean, talk about a high-waisted, yeah.
Hey, to us elder statesmen, that's nothing. I mean, we wear our pants pulled all the way up to the throat. Yeah, Ricky Martel.
Nothing wrong with some high-waisted knickers, you guys.
There we go. Spandex lives. There you go.
What you got next for us, Chris?
I don't know. Number 8, whatever it is.
Okay, let's bring up number 8.
I'm just counting. There we go.
I know one or two of the guys. I don't know who the one on the left is.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. The gentleman to the right is Scott Irwin. And I put that picture up of Scott because we in the AWA were blessed with his presence for a very short time as one of the long riders with his brother Bill. He also wrestled in the of course, as one of the super destroyers. In this picture, he is teaming up with a guy whose last name was LeBoeuf, Leb, I believe it's OEF. And they were the Yukon Lumberjacks in the WWF territory, managed, of course, by Captain Lou Albano. And LeBoeuf went on to team up with Rene Goulet, Sergeant Jacques Goulet, as one of the Legionnaires in the Chicago AWA, WWA territory. So Scott Irwin, a jack of all trades, he did it all. Long Rider, Super Destroyer, Yukon guy, and sadly left us much too soon. Love that picture.
Great photo. But what year was this, Mick? 70, early 70s?
I would say, yeah.
Because Scott looks a little thinner.
Yeah.
Than what I remember him.
Yeah, I would say, maybe pushing to about 1980-ish, but not much beyond that.
Okay.
There we go. All right. This next photograph, and this is number 9, I believe, coming up, Chris. It's interesting. We always wondered who trained Silo Sam, and I hope I'm leading into this, the correct picture. Who trained Silo Sam and Rocky Mountain Thunder? Well, the mystery has been uncovered. Chris, if we could get that.
I'm feeling like a Scooby-Doo episode right now.
There you go. there you go, right there. 10 cents. you sent in 10 cents in this wrestling advertisement.
That's your podcast residual check right there, Mick. You could learn to wrestle by mail.
My God, it's doubled.
Oh, yeah, hold on. He's getting paid 10. I'm only getting paid a penny.
Well,
you'll have to learn to wrestle 10 times.
There is a hierarchy here, but yes, wrestling learned by mail. Now, the small print is too small to read, which is just fine. But I do have a feeling that guys like Silo Sam and Rocky Mountain Thunder probably,
Farmer Burns.
Anyway, there's Verne Gagne's training camp, and then there's wrestling learned by mail, and there you go. Maybe there's hope for us yet, Chupik. Maybe we don't have to go to camp. We don't have to call Ken Anderson. We can probably learn the craft by mail.
No.
You've got mail.
a dime, and Verne was charging about $3,000 back in the early 70s.
Isn't that something? And in that picture, the cartoon is doing a hammerlock, which you haven't seen since 1952.
They still didn't get their money's worth.
I think Verne asked for his 10% of the 10 cents. So there you go. Okay. Let's move on. Who do we got now? Here we go. Now, I always talk about how sentimental Nick is, or was, God bless him. I received this Christmas card from Nick in the 1970s, and the sentiment on there, you could almost cry. The holiday season, the holiday spirit. I'm not sure if one of those is Nick and one is Darlene up top there, but things are hard. Here's your fucking Christmas card. I think that was that says it all about my relationship with Nick right there.
You got to say it with a little oomph. Read it as if Nick really meant it.
Times are tough. Things are hard. Here's your fucking Christmas card.
Much better.
And yeah, thanks, Nick. I appreciate it. That bring a tear to a glass eye. So there you
he
go.
Writes the word "fucking" better than anybody I've ever seen.
Isn't that something? I just class personified.
It looks very elegant. Now when I want to write the word "fucking," I will be I'm going to be thinking of Nick Bockwinkel and how would Nick write it.
You have a standard to reach now, pal.
Yeah,
and,
there's a fucking standard. Yes,
it's a high bar. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it, buddy. There you go.
You notice that it didn't say Darlene on there. I'm guessing that was from Nick's private Christmas card distribution collection.
I will tell you a true story. Darlene saw this card. God, I don't remember where this is way back in the day. Might have been in a wrestling bulletin, and she was mortified. And she did as you said, Joe. She completely disowned this situation, and she had nothing to do with it, and it was all Sir Nicholas.
And I can probably state for a fact that wasn't the only thing that she might have been appalled at over the many years of Nick and his tricks, shall we say.
Well, let alone the wrestling business.
Exactly.
There you go. All righty.
What do I got next, Chris?
And where is the drum roll picture? Here we go. Now,
speaking of growths.
Now, when somebody
is Andre
says,
crowning there? I mean, what's going
well,
on?
No. When somebody says to you guys, "What'd you have for lunch?" You know, we had pizza, we had a hamburger. I don't think any of us has ever said, "I had Killer Khan."
He had Chinese for lunch.
For lunch. This is pretty serious. Now, well, first of all, I can only imagine what happened here. Poor Killer Khan. You could also say poor Andre if, in fact, he's passing Killer Khan there. But my God, that's painful just to look at. But there you go. Anybody that ever said Killer Khan was the hemorrhoid on the wrestling of life, well, there you go. There's proof positive. Wow.
The timing to get that photo is phenomenal to begin with.
Yeah.
Not that Andre moved quickly, but when I first saw that picture, because I get the photos prepped for each of our podcasts, but when I first saw that, I literally laughed out loud because it looked like Andre was either shitting out Killer Khan or that Killer Khan was a growth coming out of Andre. But nonetheless, fantastic photo.
Yeah, and we're not denigrating Killer Khan, but can you imagine the amount of X-Lax that Andre probably had to take in order to, pass that?
Another bottle of cognac.
So did Killer Khan, was he the one that broke Andre's leg in a match?
I don't know.
Maybe I'm imagining something.
I wouldn't blame him if he did, but wow, that's painful stuff. Speaking of painful stuff, and photographs as we are, if we can go to the next one, Christopher.
Yeah. Didn't you want to set this one up?
No, it'll kind of set up itself, but it follows on the heels of what we just saw, I think.
Oh yeah, I see what you're doing.
There
Sorry,
we go.
I had to ask you about that.
Yeah,
that ass looks familiar.
Hey, your personal life is your business, pal. That's Buddy Rose. The top of the cage there, trying to get out of the cage. I believe that's Roddy Piper that is preventing him from getting out of the cage in the best way that he knows how. The thing with Buddy Rose is Buddy did this over and over again. He did the same gimmick, whether it was in Portland or Minneapolis, St. Paul, wherever. Invariably, somebody would take Buddy's trunks down, and that massive planet Neptune rear end of Buddy Rose was exposed for everybody in the arena. I don't know what to say.
It wasn't only in the ring that happened. And the reason that I say it looks familiar, I think I've said it on this podcast before, Buddy would oftentimes during interview day try to break up new incoming talent in the AWA. They have their first interview, and then here comes Buddy right next to the camera, not only pulling down his pants, but he became Moses and spread the so that's what I mean about how it looks familiar. nicknamed him the Bat Cave back in the day. Got talked so goddamn much. Yeah.
That and what's interesting, if you knew Buddy Rose, this was mild for Buddy's inside and outside the ring behavior. Talk about a character. And you can imagine how much Roddy Piper loved being part of that little skit. Buddy Rose, God bless him.
Yes.
Righty. Continuing. I'm going to explain this picture to you. That is two AWA alumni, Don Morocco on the left and Pedro Morales on the right. You talk about the era of kayfabe. When this picture was taken, the hottest feud in wrestling on the East Coast, WWF, was Pedro Morales and Don Morocco. And I mean, they had cage matches, they had blood matches, they had everything going on. And somebody happened to snap this picture back in the day. I'm assuming it's a locker room shot, pre-show. But again, the world of pro wrestling. An hour later, they were in the ring beating the shit out of each other in a cage. But what a classic picture of Morocco and Morales.
Going beyond the classic nature of this photo, I got a comment about Pedro's attire. You can definitely, if you live during this time period of the 1970s, late 60s even, you can tell the era that this is from. The green pants, the brightly checkered gold. If that doesn't scream 70s to you, then you don't know your fashion history.
It screams shower curtain.
Bad shower curtain.
Oh my God. I've stayed in motels with better looking, sheets than that. But yeah, Pedro Morales and Don Morocco. And I've said many times, Don, one of the greatest heels and underrated heels in wrestling history. No doubt.
Agreed. What do we got next, Chris?
Here you go. Now, you notice Sheik Adnan in the background there. He's kind of intrigued by what's going on here. But you have to believe that Wally is saying to Stan at this point, listen, here's what you do. Take the belt, take it to your farm, move the chickens and the cows out of the way, get your pickup truck, run over the damn belt and send it back to Verne. That is exactly what is going on in that photograph. I love this. I absolutely love this picture. And again, look at Sheik Adnan. He's not quite sure what the hell's going on there. But Stan seems amused by Wally's idea. And eventually, of course, it played out in real time.
Well, and here I thought it was Wally trying to sell Stan a TV.
Hey. Hey.
I'm just saying.
Give the guy Wally's gone 32 years now. Will you let him rest?
Too soon?
All right, give me Wally selling Stan a TV, and Stan. What would Stan's response be?
Stan's response would be, he can't afford it. He's got a wife and 9 kids at home. He's got to feed them. But Wally would say, listen, Stan, I got a back in the car outside the lot. Got a 19-inch Zenith. Just imagine you and a family, you and your wife and your 17 kids running around watching Ed Sullivan. Stan. I'm to the store and my dog starts barking. Oh, Lord. Oh my God. Classic. Boy, right on cue, the dog starts barking. Okay.
He wants 19-inch TV.
We got 19-inch Zenith. I think you've been called that every once in a while, too, but that's...
Yeah, if I was a 19-inch Zenith, I'd be one of those reception's out, just start pounding the top of it.
There we go. Look at this guy here. Angelo Mosca. Obviously, years before he came out on television, combing his chest hairs, Larry Hennig referring to him as Angelo Ping Pong Monkey Man. And what's interesting about this, there's no mention of wrestling here. Of course, Angelo was a football guy back in the time. He dislikes conceited girls. Now, isn't that something? There's a little insight into Angelo King Kong Mosca. Look at this clean-cut guy. Absolutely gorgeous. Angelo Mosca, well-known football player. I don't know who Tom, Stan, or Mike are, but that's, here nor there. But football, basketball, future college football stars here, but no mention of wrestling. And, of course, he played for the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the Canadian Football League. One of the greats, one of my favorites, Angelo Mosca.
Dislikes conceited girls.
Yeah.
Wish we could ask him about that one.
I'll bet. Okay, continue.
In high school. Anyway. All
Continuing
right, what do
on.
we got next?
All right.
I don't even.
Set this, you don't want to set.
No, we don't have to set it up. We're
Okay,
running
here.
long here, so.
No, we're fine. We're fine.
Okay. Now, there you go. Now, I have it on good authority that this guy also introduced Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty by their name in Las Vegas, only he got the worst of it. He didn't have any glasses thrown at him. He was lucky in that regard. He did not cost Verne millions. I would guess this, Verne probably told the guy, you cost me a couple $100. But look at this now. That is somebody that probably said, I don't believe wrestling is real. And I think Verne probably put the kibosh to that line of thinking real fast. And look at the grin on his face, Joe. He's relishing this.
Well, and here I thought it was that the guy hadn't given him the right percentage from a trip over to Japan. And so Verne is all pissed off at him. Yeah. By the way,
that's very clearly a choke, too. That's very clearly a choke.
Oh, there's no
how's
question.
it a choke? It's on his eyes.
The guy has just pushed Verne's arm up off his throat, trying to save his own life.
It's clean. It's clean. No fines, no suspensions. Wrestle on, Verne.
God, you talk about that's the Backlund chicken wing, isn't it? That Verne is applying there.
I think the chicken wing actually goes kind of more across the face, doesn't it? Or does it go up higher?
More like the Gagne croissant.
Another T-shirt marketing idea. The Gagne croissant. Okay, thank you, Vernsky. There, thank you, boss. All right. Well, let's see.
The Gagne croissant. I might have to work with it. Once I get some time, I got ideas. All right, here we go.
Oh, I love this. That is current WWF employee, former podcaster, former WCW mainstay, Jeremy Borash.
Oh, wow.
That is Jeremy back on Saturday Night at Ringside. I'm going to say 1989-ish. Jeremy, at the time, believe it or not, was kind of hosting a local cable access show. He was in high school at the time. And what's great about this is Jeremy was a Ringsider of the Week on SNR. And I came out and I, always ask the guys, who's your favorite, least favorite wrestler? And Jeremy's least favorite wrestler was Hulk Hogan. And at the time, Jeremy was working with Hogan in WCW. Well, later years, he was working with Hogan in WCW. But the irony. And Jeremy Borash, of course, went on to be a multi-trillionaire, and he's done very, very well for himself in the business, and he's earned every cent of it. One hell of a guy, great friend. That I believe is 14-year-old Jeremy Borash.
So you could say Jeremy was ahead of his time and knew. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, he knew what was to come.
All right. What do we got next?
Who's the next blockbuster? I love it. Now.
Wow.
This will take you back to the world-class days and the UWF days.
I knew I was a Hollywood John Tatum fan.
Yeah. John Tatum, whether you think he's a great wrestler or not, he absolutely has 20/20 vision. You can say that about the guy. That's John Tatum and Missy Hyatt. And people are going to say, what does that have to do with the AWA? Nothing. Nothing whatsoever.
It doesn't have to.
No, I made an exception. I extended the playground a little bit here. But look at Hollywood John there. I mean, this guy, he is laser focused. And can you blame him? That's all I'm going to say about that.
Well, I would say you said he has 20/20 vision. I'm going to say it's more like 38/38 vision. Just a guess, but
I see what you did there. Or should I say I D what you did there?
oh,
Boy, this has just tanked. We got Buddy Rose's ass. We got Andre the Giant shitting out a Killer Khan.
So we're right on par for the best.
Right, yeah. Good thing Missy Hyatt's a friend of yours, because otherwise I would feel a little dirty.
We picked up right where we left off.
We certainly did. Certainly did.
It
Hollywood
only
Johnny,
took us 45 minutes to get to John Tatum staring at the
Nope, only 38 minutes.
38 minutes. Oh yeah, because 8 minutes was bullshit. Sorry, I'm going by the
No. Just 38,
Hey,
38.
can we keep
38.
deteriorating this show? Come on.
I'm sure we can.
Yeah,
Are you
will.
even asking? I mean,
We
come
will.
on.
When he puts it back up again. What?
For
And
some
I'm
reason, it won't go past this. It won't go past this picture.
And
Hold
I'm
on. Let me
fine with that.
let me refresh.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Okay, here we go.
All right, here we go indeed. I apologize to Corrine E.S. up in Canada for this extended stuff here. Now, Joe, I'm going to leave this to you.
So we see Missy Hyatt, and we see in his trunks.
We go from Missy Hyatt to Jack reaching into his pants.
Yeah. I thought, Joe, maybe you had some insight
That looks good. I'll be back.
into Jack Lanza's situation here. What's going on?
Insight. No, do I want to know.
The average guy might think that Jack Lanza is reaching into his tights for a foreign object. But what I'm thinking is Jack is going for that bottle of shoe polish because his hair dye has probably, started to fade a little bit, and he has to replenish, or as Chris says, refresh in the middle of the match. But yeah, I thought that was kind of intriguing. We go from the picture of Missy Hyatt to Jack Lanza digging into his crotch. So there you go. Oh my God, what a podcast this is!
The laying out in the pictures in this order, classic. And I don't think it was planned, but if
it really wasn't, But as I think about it,
I'm almost nervous to see not nervous is the wrong word, but I'm interested to see who's reaching.
Technical difficulties.
God. Okay, what do we got next?
I'm sorry. I just that one's going in the archives. It's because I like John Tatum.
Look at this picture. That is Ernie the Cat Ladd, and that's
a big cat.
That is the big cat, Ernie Ladd, and I believe that is Dusty Rhodes there on the canvas. And you talk about the Hulk Hogan leg drop. Look at this. Now, Ernie Ladd himself was about 6'8", legit 6'9", close to 300 pounds. I don't care if the business is a work or not. You look up and you see that son of a bitch dropping the leg on you. That is scary stuff. But what a tremendous action picture.
He was very agile for a big man.
He was, yeah. Tremendous heel, and my God, Dusty is certainly in position there, but holy shit. And I've said many times before, if you want a class in pro wrestling heel promo 101, go back to when Ernie Ladd was cutting his promos on television. Tremendous talent.
Did Ernie spend a dime to learn how to do a wrestling promo?
Uh, possibly
That in the back of like a Mad magazine, learn how to do a promo for 10 cents.
for 10 cents.
Yeah,
Promos
yeah,
were
promos by mail.
Promo for 10 cents. Learn how to wrestle for another 10 cents, or I got a deal for you. Do both. It only costs you a quarter.
and we'll throw in a television set.
Throw in a TV. What the
Throw
hell?
in a TV and a bookcase if you want. All right. Continuing.
Oh,
Continuing. Are we enjoying ourselves? Because we're the only ones.
my
that
hands are. You can see my hands. I'm not.
This is a great picture.
Mine are
This
stuck
goes
to
back
the
to,
keyboard.
I think this is 82. The Phil Donahue show had AWA wrestlers on there, including Jesse the Body Ventura and Adrian Adonis. And Nick was there along with his gorgeous wife, Darlene. And Phil Donahue, who, of course, passed away not that long ago, big wrestling fan. And the guys were in the ring doing their thing. And Phil Donahue was one of those guys that was very respectful. He did not make any aspersions or any snide comments. He just let the guys do their thing and put the business over and defend the business. And great picture.
The only thing I've got to say to it is that Darlene makes that picture that much better.
Oh, she's a beautiful woman. Darlene, just gorgeous and a wonderful lady.
Class all the way through. How the hell Nick ended up with her? I kept giving him shit. It's like, what? Who did you pay off to be able to marry her?
Yeah, he married up, no doubt.
No doubt about it.
All righty, continuing.
Hey, what's next?
This is a great shot, and this is I put this up because this is generational, and that, of course, is Lenise Hennig on the left. On the right is our buddy Hank Hennig, and in the middle is Scott Norton. And this was at a Midwest All-Star Wrestling show not that long ago, last year. And Scott Norton, of course, one of the band of thugs from the old days with Kurt Hennig and the Road Warriors and Barry Darso and John Nord and so on and so forth. So he was thrilled to meet Lenise and, of course, Hank. And this is what I had to capture. I took that picture, and it's Old Home Week. Whenever any of those guys from the old Northeast, North Minneapolis area get together, and especially when Lenise comes up and introduces herself to them, it's great stuff.
Flapjack Norton.
Oh, tough guy. Tough guy. The Flapjack Norton thing to me is very forgettable.
Yes.
NWA Scott. Yeah, NWA Scott Norton, I'll go with any day. So
agreed. And one of the thickest human beings I've ever been around.
Oh, my God. Now, there you go. Now, the Vikings, of course, once again, tanked this year. They need this guy right here, who I understand is a free agent. He can be a walk-on at camp next year. I believe he's a defensive lineman. This is just the guy that could take the Vikings that extra step to their first ever Super Bowl. What do you think, Joe?
I'm thinking he could be our new quarterback. Might not be real mobile, but he'll never fumble the ball because he's got a master grip for his way. So, I mean, I can just see Barron. I was going to say weaving through traffic as he's scrambling, but be more of a
stumble.
And can you see Barron going over the goal line, turning to the defenders and say, and that is all you need to know?
I'm guessing that Lamar Jackson, he's not in terms of mobility. I can't see Barron running downfield and evading tackles, but nonetheless, if the Vikings are looking for a guy that's looking for work, that's better than his job at the zoo driving the monorail, there's your guy. Right there. Oh, pro wrestling.
What a character.
All right. What do we got? Oh, I'm telling you, this is one of my favorite pictures ever. That is on the mat being attended to by Jim Mitchell, the Iron Duke referee. That's Kurt Hennig. Eddie Sharkey is one of the referees with his back to us. I'm not sure if that is Brad Ringens or not. Not positive, but that's Nick Bockwinkel. And I believe Nick has either pinned Kurt or been disqualified. And Nick has his hand raised in that customary Bockwinkel victory stance. I absolutely love this picture.
I'm trying to pinpoint the year. The crowd looks good. Jankowski was ringside. Kurt, I want to say this is maybe 84.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I would say 84 would be certainly ballpark because the crowd is still good. Jankowski was still with the AWA. But just this entire picture, this one is one of my favorites. Absolutely. It epitomizes Nick Bockwinkel.
Yeah, I do think that was Brad Ringens with his back to us. It looks like him.
Okay, great stuff.
All right, what do we got next?
We got going on here. Interesting photograph here. Both of these guys wrestled in the AWA, and I'm sure generationally you guys are not familiar with them. The guy on the left, dark-haired gentleman, was wrestling as Jerry Miller in the Omaha area. Jerry the Duke Miller. He wrestled in the AWA early on as an enhancement guy by the name of Jerry Hannigan. And didn't do very well here, but, again, when he left the territory, changed his name, he did better. The guy on the right, that is Jim Osborne. And Jim Osborne, who had a great career in the southern part of the United States, where he wrestled as Dr. X, wrestled here in the Twin Cities area as Double X, the tag team partner of Dr. X, Dick Beyer. So they both have ties to the AWA, but in wrestling history, people, if you don't know who the heck was Double X tag teaming with Dick Beyer, there he is, the redheaded Jim Osborne.
So we had, just to clarify, he wrestled here with Dr. X as Double X?
Yes, he did. Yep.
Wow,
They
that
were
one I don't
tag team.
remember. Must have been a
tag
short
team.
run.
Yeah, late 60s, maybe into 1970-ish.
Yeah.
And again, Jim Osborne wrestled as Dr. X, no Double X, in other territories. So
I was 4 and 5 years old, so no clue.
There you go.
All right.
Continuing on. Who do we got? There you go, Joe. Who be that, Joe?
Oh God, I know this.
I'll tell you.
Give me an initials.
PF. Got him?
Pompero Firpo.
There you go.
Wow.
That is the Wild Bull of the Pampas. Pompero Firpo, obviously long after he retired. You know, you show people these pictures of the guys, out of character and years after their retirement. And some, you just cannot believe that is the guy. First time I went out to Cauliflower Alley, which is back in 2000. Pampero was there. So this picture was obviously a little bit later than that. But he was standing 10 feet away from me. And George Shire said, "Do you know who that is?" And I looked, and honest to God, I had no idea. And when George told me it was Pompero Firpo, it just blew my mind. But yeah, the Wild Bull of the Pampas, one of the great characters in the history of wrestling, wound up working for the United States Postal Service, as we have mentioned before. But there you go.
Well, and of course, you cannot forget giving him credit where credit is due, and that's Randy Macho Man Savage and his. Oh yeah, he got that from Pompero Firpo, and Savage even credited him.
Yep, no question. And Facebook friends with his son John, and maybe we'll get him on the podcast one of these days. I think that would be a good.
I would love that.
There you go. I was going to save this for the eventual day when we get Justin Ray's Harley's Kid on the program. But
why not both? We can save it for him.
Isn't that something? Yeah, Mad Dog Race. That was one of the characters that Harley assumed back in the day, along with the great Mortimer. Was another character, Harley Race, but you talk about a guy who did it all in the business, and look at that expression on Harley's face. Mad Dog Race, Mad Dog Vachon, they're all, maniacal.
No, he just saw the photo of Missy Hyatt.
That explains it. that explains it. Or he saw the photograph of Killer Khan and Andre. That would also do it. But Harley Race, we're going to get his son Justin on the show. He's committed to do it, and I'm looking forward to that one.
Very cool. Very cool. I think we got a couple more left.
Work your magic there, Chris.
Magic it is.
Boy,
I don't know why that picture.
remember, she knows your name, Chris.
I
Yeah,
know.
cool. Quit showing us your desktop.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. There you go, Joe. Got him?
No. Give me the initials again.
TG.
TG. I don't know.
That would be Terry Gordy.
No way.
That would be Terry Bam Bam Gordy, one of the legendary Freebirds, one of the great talents in wrestling history early on in his wrestling career, obviously. If you look at the eyes, you can pick out that is, in fact, Terry Gordy. But look at that shot. And then compare, he probably put on another 100 pounds over the years and bulked up and, had that hair going, the curly locks. One of the great talents in the business. His daughter is a tremendous wrestler in her own right, but what a great picture. These early pictures of the guys as they're just getting started, I love them.
Oh, I never would have guessed, but having said that, when you pointed out the eyes, yeah, can definitely see it. What a great pick that was.
Oh, God, yeah. So there you go.
Okay, what do we got, Chris?
Last one.
This is our last one. Now, the reason I put this picture up, this is from a wrestling magazine. Angelo Poffo, the father of Lanny Poffo and Macho Man Savage, and Dick Steinborn. Now, I just thought that the caption was very interesting. There is a connection there. If you look at it, you got the muff and you got the face, and that would be probably going back to the early 1960s. But I thought that was, I don't know who the editor of that wrestling magazine was or who proofread that, but yeah, there you go. Huh.
I'll give it a 1 for creativity as far as the names go, but interesting. Is that Angelo's muff that he's got his hands in right now?
Yeah, I don't know. How do you get a nickname of the Muff?
Oh, you've known a few people over the years that have had that nickname, Chris. Come on. But, Angelo Poffo, there he is, carrying the muff, and Dickie Steinborn provided the face to go against the muff.
So I wonder if the muff ever sat on the face.
Honest to God, Joe, I was praying that you wouldn't go there.
Oh, hey, you open up a door, I'm going to walk through it. Come on.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? And fans want to get on us. This was in a wrestling magazine. This was a national magazine.
Yeah, you didn't write it. Hey, you're just reporting the news. You didn't make the news.
Exactly.
Don't shoot the piano player. That's the way it goes. Yep.
All right. Well,
boy, what a show. How about those action photos we provided today, guys? Huh?
These are good. The muff, the face, the ass.
38.
38s. All right. Let's give some shout outs and then we'll take her home.
Thank God. My shout out is to, Shu LaRue. That's right. Shu LaRue is a gorgeous lady that lives out in the Colorado area. Shu LaRue, big wrestling fan. I'm sure the weather's a little bit too cold for her to be dipping her toes into the lakes up there, Aspen area. But Shu LaRue, how do you do?
My shout out goes to Jim Elliott. I've seen Jim be very active on our AWA Unleashed Facebook page. And so this one is for you, Jim. Thank you for being a loyal listener.
And mine is going to go out to all the Mick heads over the past couple of months. You know, you guys know that kind of been dealing with a few things. So some serious things that, you know, we've kind of had to move things and cancel and change. And I appreciate everybody and their support. And I'm hoping that we're on the right path. Baby steps with getting this situation rectified. We're hoping that we're trending in the right direction. It's still too early to tell, but I want to thank all of you guys and gals for your support. And it means a lot. As much as we like doing the podcast, real life comes first. And it's one of those things that I don't like to have to cancel, postpone, move, but thank you guys, everybody, for your understanding and support. And hopefully we'll get into a little bit of a routine here as things are, you know, hopefully get better.
No explanation needed, my friend. I told you via text message, you're a brother in arms, and you said it right. It's real life. The podcast is a diversion, and especially when you have a show like we did today, being silly all over the place. But real life gets in the way, and anytime we got to move stuff around, shuffle stuff, we've all been through it. All three of us have had stuff at various times.
Yeah, and Joe just recently lost his mother, so we're all
we've been there.
So thank you guys.
You know, we do this podcast because we enjoy reliving the days of the AWA. We don't we don't profit off of this. The dollars that come in from our subscribers pay for the software that delivers this to you. So we do this for fun. So you're right when you said, Mick. I mean, life, for better or for worse, depending on the situation, happens. And this, unfortunately, the podcast gets pushed down on a priority list, and rightfully so. But having said that, we do feel that we owe it to our casual listeners and certainly our loyal listeners to come back, to continue to put out product. I was going to say good product, but yeah, after today,
good subjective. That's very very subjective.
It's all very subjective. You know, I mean, I could give you 38 reasons to continue to watch the podcast, and hope that you continue to do so. You know, we're here to hopefully provide some entertainment, hopefully provide some insight, but most of all, some memories, some good memories of the AWA.
Let me just very quickly add one question or one comment before we go. We kid around a lot on this show, but folks, and this is not kissing anybody's rear end, we really appreciate you. We have some very, very loyal listeners and viewers. And when the podcast is delayed by even an hour, sometimes we'll get, hey, where are you guys? Are we going to have a new podcast this week? We appreciate you. We may joke about it, but honest to God, we can't do it without you. Although I'm sure a lot of times you would prefer that we did. But thank you. And Chris and Joe, it's always just a delight. It's an honor to work with you guys, and onward and upward. We got some guests coming up. We won't talk about who they are because scheduling, you know, but we got a lot of people that want to appear on the podcast this year, and they're going to, and stay tuned.
Works for me. Uh-oh. Yes. Oh.